a Copilot that could help you in your everyday work tasks, answer your questions specific to the company you are working for and specific to the tools you're using, to the processes you have to work in.
So Daniel, welcome on Data Tales. I'm very happy to have you. And today we have a very, very nice topic. Finally, we're riding the Gen.ai hype, and I would love to talk about a product that you helped building, which is a Gen.ai RAG system for a big wholesaler. So maybe we can start by a short intro for people who don't know you. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thanks for having me. I'm Daniel Engelhardt, software developer and architect for roughly about 10 years now, and currently working for Codecentric. And Codecentric is doing consulting for a lot of different companies. And then in this capacity, I'm currently working for the company you mentioned.
And can you maybe walk us through this very cool product that you helped developing? Maybe from the ideation phase, what is it about? What went into it? And yeah, just tell us the tale of this product.
Yeah, sure. So I think the basic idea was what you just said, the AI hype train. So I think there are a lot of different initiatives in the company to somehow get on this train as well. And one very clever manager had the idea of building a co-pilot. So I think a lot of people in the tech space will know GitHub Copilot, basically a language model that is specific to a certain topic. For the GitHub Copilot, obviously it's developing, and in this project we are talking about it's a company-specific Copilot, you could say. So a Copilot that could help you in your everyday work tasks, answer your questions specific to the company you are working for and specific to the tools you're using, to the processes you have to work in. So this is just the basic idea, and the hard part is the specific knowledge of the company, obviously, and the departments you are working in. Because what is the difference to just asking ChatGPT, right? So obviously ChatGPT will always give you some answers to basically every question you might have. Thing is, ChatGPT does know a lot of things, but hopefully shouldn't know anything about the specific details of your company, specific processes, and obviously doesn't know what tools you are using and how to use them and all that stuff. And so this was basically the technical challenges at hand. And as you mentioned, RAG, so Retrieval Augmented Generation, is one way to solve that. So the idea is not to train your own custom model, because this has some disadvantages. Obviously, you would have to train the model rather frequently to get current information in there. Training those models is rather expensive and all that stuff. So what Retrieval Augmented Generation does here is that it takes a general language model, so like ChatGPT, and inserts the relevant information that the model needs to answer the question of the user. As this information is part of the prompt, basically, the language model can then answer the question and use the capacity of language generation just in general to answer a user's questions. So I think this covers the general idea.
That's really awesome. So maybe just to rephrase what you guys try to do. So there's certain processes in a company, and for people who want to understand how a certain process that works, you build kind of like a chatbot that these people or the employees of the company can talk to. And then because obviously these chatbots have no access to the company's information, you build a way to feed this information to the model where the model would be able to give an informed decision for the people to do certain things. Obviously, for sensitive reason, we're not gonna mention in what department this was. Maybe can you walk us through the development, the tech? Did you use ChatGPT? Was it more on Google Cloud? The models from the way you started? Maybe focus on the scalability of it, because I know you maybe have a lot of users. What scalability issues did you have? I would love to learn about everything. I know. Let's do it in a more structured way. Let's start with the development. How did the development go from an idea to an actual product?
Yeah, so I joined the project about half a year ago, and as I said at the beginning in my introduction, I'm developer and software architect. That also means I'm not a specific data scientist. So I have a rough understanding of how language models work, but I would probably not be able to come up with one of my own in a reasonable amount of time. So that's not my domain of expertise. And when I joined the project, there was already a data scientist working on that, and the manager he was working with had like quite a good set of ideas, and also basically implemented the MVP. The problem was like making that MVP workable, accessible by users, because like in the core there's this data science parts, basically where you use RAG to get responses from a language model, and are able to ingest some information into your prompts. But obviously there's a whole set of things you have to build around it. So the whole set of infrastructure, you need a front end for that to be able to be really usable for normal users, not for developers only. You need to, like as you said, be able to scale that to some degree. So you need some infrastructure that is like probably cloud-based, as it is in our case as well. And this was basically what I focused on at the beginning. And so what is the setup in general? So let me think about that. So maybe let's start with what the users see. This is obviously front end. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we have a small front end set up, and I mean, they all look pretty similar for like ChatGPT and all the alternatives, and ours looks pretty similar. And as we are a small team, we are using Streamlit because Streamlit is like a rather new framework, I think, which is like close to data scientists anyway, right? And that was an easy way for us to get started there. So I think that is like what we are using as a framework. And as we are working on Google Cloud, we used Cloud Run services there as well to host the front end. And so basically the front end is just a simple Streamlit app that communicates with the backend, sends the prompts there, the requests there, and gets the responses from the backend. So I think this is easy enough for every developer. A lot of tutorials out there as well, so there's no big secret to that. The more relevant part is obviously like not even the backend, but maybe let's continue with that. So the backend is just API offering basically that communicates with the front end, takes the requests, and then does the RAG logic. So this is the interesting part, I guess, and then calls the LLM. In our case, we are using GCP services for that as well. So this Gemini as the large language model. And so the RAG part, here's I think where it gets interesting. So there is a process to ingest the needed information into a database. And I think the general approach to collect those informations information in the database is to use the vector database. And so maybe explain that a little bit more in detail from what I can say, because as I said, I'm no data scientist, but what my understanding is that like the information is translated into embeddings, and I would claim that embeddings are basically numerical representations of information in general. And so we have a process that translates the documents, the information that we want to have in our responses, basically is then translated, as I said, into embeddings and then ingested into the vector database. Now, once this process is done, so we have like a couple of documents that are ingested into the database. Next thing is, how can we retrieve those information specific for or regarding to the prompt that the user was making, right? So what we do there is trying to get the intent of the user. So again, we are using like a large language model, give the prompt that the user entered to the language model and ask that, please give us the intent of the user. And hopefully in this way we get a more detailed description of what the user wants to have as an answer, and ideally also have like more connection to the information that we want to retrieve from the vector database. And then we take basically the response of the language model and throw that against the database using vector search. So basically we are translating the language model's response into an embedding as well. Do a nearest neighbor search. Not quite sure how that works in detail, but this is what I find out about it. And so then we get like a couple of documents back from the vector search, and now that is the best information we have in regard to the question of the user. And now we can take this information and give it to the language model, and also give the original prompt to the language model and tell that language model, hey, please answer the user's question based on the information we just gave you. And that is basically the whole process. And to come back to the infrastructure part now, obviously this is like the whole coordination part that is done by our backend. As I said, we have the vector database, which is like an external system, obviously, but this is obviously used to store the information and query that. And that's basically the core part of the system as is.
Well, that sounds very sophisticated. I just have a question regarding the intent. Why isn't the user just let me reformulate that. Why isn't the user's question being directly sent to the RAG to find the relevant documents? Why do you need to extract intent from what they asked for?
That's actually a good question, which I can only probably partially answer because like the whole idea to do it in the way that we are doing it was already there before I joined. So they tested like different approaches, and I think obviously the one you mentioned, basically just using the user's question, is the naive one and the obvious one. And I guess that also works reasonably well because I talked to colleagues that are using this approach and they don't have too much issue. So I guess that is a valid approach as well. But we found out that our approach, so basically, doing another round, so using the LLM as well there, improves the intent generation. So basically improves like the likelihood that we are actually querying the vector database with the right questions, with the right embeddings, so that we get better documents and better information for that. And so this is what we found out in testing it, and that's why we are using it. And I think what helps here as well is that we so this is the only part where we actually train our own language model. For the whole different other parts, for the response generation, there we are just using Gemini, and this is working reasonably well for us. But for the intent generation, I think it helps to have a specific model that has at least some information about the company, like the general terms that is used, that are used, and to get a better understanding of what could be connected to the user's question, right? And another thing that adds to this is probably like users tend to ask simple and small questions, right? So this is, I think, a rather natural thing to do, right? So you have a question in mind and you just type it in, you hope to get an answer. And I think there are a lot of introductions into like how to use LLMs and how to prompt engineering, even for normal users that aren't super sophisticated in technical stuff. But so that would be one way to improve questioning in general, using better prompts, right? But yeah, users aren't just doing that. So if we take a simple question, that probably is not like the whole picture. There's a context missing in there, and different parts missing. And I think this is one reason why having a specific intent model with some background information on the company helps there a lot.
That's really genius. I haven't heard of this before, to be honest. It's the first time I hear that there's a layer between the question and the actual retrieval element of the RAG. Usually, yes, as you said, you just encode whatever the user is trying to do into numbers, and then you mentioned nearest neighbor. Just try to find the closest in numerical form, like the smallest deviation from these values that you can find. Was there anything that surprised you in this development? Were there stuff versus traditional software development where you realized like, okay, here we are a little bit struggling?
Quite a bit of things, to be honest. So like what probably surprised me the most was the whole prompt engineering part. Because, as I said, there are a lot of introductions into it and like tutorials on how to do better prompt engineering, a lot of LinkedIn posts specifically. And I always thought like, come on, how hard can it be to ask the right question? I mean, we are Googling for, I don't know, an eternity now, and how hard can it actually be? And I was surprised that actually words matter a lot, even simple ones. And has a completely different effect if you like change words or add an extra instruction in your prompt, or like all those different small things. So I think this is like, I mean, we are talking about the whole system here and the difficulties that we had with it. And obviously we cannot go into too much detail. But like, I didn't expect that the simple thing of prompt engineering would be one of the hardest part and one of the parts where we invest the most time, I think, at least quite a bit of time compared to all the technical challenges around that and setting things up and doing the process right and all this stuff. So yeah, that was definitely something that I didn't expect front. And like another challenge maybe is like the whole evaluation part for me. So as a software engineer, I think it's rather used to like writing tests and all that stuff, and that is rather easy for most cases, right? So you write your unit test, you have an expected outcome or expected result. You throw your function in there, you get a result, and compare that to the expected result, and hopefully it's the same. And then you unit test or whatever passes. That's easy enough. That doesn't work for language models, right? So even if you ask the same question, like the same information in there, the model might answer a little bit different. And if you, I don't know, change something in the prompt, or the current version of the model changes, or like a whole lot of different small changes can result in a completely different result. And that result, maybe it has the same content, or even better content, better answer to your question, but a different structure for it, right? And or maybe it's a very similar answer, same structure, but there's some hallucination in there that doesn't really help. So comparing that and getting a good automatic process in there, that is also rather hard, and that is an ongoing challenge, I think. So I'm not sure if anyone out there really solved that part and can say, we are 100% certain of the quality of our answers, and you can automatically get, I don't know, whatever scores from that. But that's definitely a challenge that we are having. So we had and are still having.
There's been a lot of research at the moment trying to push for like a systematic way for finding evaluating system. Like there's RAGAS kind of framework that you can do. But as you said, there's the thing is, usually data science has always have a little bit of randomness. But at least for traditional models, the randomness happens during training. Sometimes when you retrain something, you're not sure why something has changed. But once you deployed it, usually it's deterministic. So for a specific input, you have a specific output. And usually, if you put the same image as an input, you always get the same result as an output. But sometimes you don't understand why this output is being generated. What I find challenging as well in this LLMs is there is maybe for the same word, you might get different results. I mean, there's ways to like kind of tweak that where like always generate the same output. But also, as you said, like small changes in prompt engineering might lead to like massive changes in the output. And the scary part is we're still trying to figure out what to do. Like there's no, I mean, right now, maybe there are some best practices, but still, there's no way to use the fundamentals of software development into adding these kind of prompt engineering development, like prompt engineering principles, all this kind of stuff, which makes it really, really challenging to work with this, especially if you want it in a production environment. My question is, what did you do to mitigate that? You said the evaluation was challenging, but what was the result?
Yeah, how did we tackle that challenge, right? So there's the concept of LLM as a judge. So what the idea is, basically you define some criteria that you want to test your or the LLM's response, and you ask the LLM basically again, okay, this was the original user question, maybe this were the information that were given to the language model, and this is the response. And now please score that response with all the information on in the specific categories. So, for example, is the response correct? Does it use harmful speech? Is it hallucinating? Is it logical in itself? All the different potential categories, and what you can then get from that is a score, right? So you basically let the fuzziness in the responses, you try to mitigate that by using again natural language, and obviously a language model for that to resolve that problem. This is, I think, a common approach to tackle that problem. This is the path we are going, and this is working quite well for us. And you said before, it's not possible to use engineering principles, and I would contradict that. So I think like it's not possible to use the exact same approaches, and it's not like quite as simple. But I think the approach of having automated tests and all that stuff, and automating a lot of things to break them down into ideally numbers that are comparable, right? I think this idea stays the same, and I think there's a lot of room for improvement. But I think this is the way to go. So what we are basically doing is, like, as I said, using the LLM to get scores for responses, and we basically collected a set of standard questions that are common to the domain basically. Then we let a business user answer those questions, so that we have a comparable answer that has the relevant information in there, and take that as a sample answer, you could say, and also throw that in there into the LLM and take it as a comparison, right? So basically compare the generated answer to the one that is not sure if the ideal is the correct word, but that is the sample answer, right? So that is one thing that we did there, and basically for every change. So we are talking about continuous integration here. Basically, for every change that we do, we are generating a score for all those different categories that we are talking about, for all the different questions that we have in our sample set, and that generates a overall score. And obviously, this will not be exactly the same. So basically, if you do a small change that maybe doesn't even change anything really related to the model, so actually the score should be the same. It obviously will not be exactly the same, but it will be close enough. So if there is a large difference, you are able to notice that, and maybe something broke in your prompt, or I don't know, maybe there's no some new feature, some capacity in the language model that we are using. all those things might lead to a change in the score, but at least we're able to detect that automatically, and we don't have to like invest a lot of time in asking the same questions every time again and comparing these answers, because like coming back to like normal quote unquote development, this is what you try to mitigate with unit tests, right? So get a good enough check of your software so that you can assure that the quality is like good enough and common use cases are tested. And you don't want to do that manually, because this is obviously a lot of work. And I think this work is even harder and is more to do in our use case, because like asking questions and understanding, reading answers, like that takes a little bit of more time than just comparing, I don't know, random numbers, or like checking if the button actually sends a document or whatever you could do in normal development. And so that would even take more time in our use case, I think. So I think it's even more important to automate that.
Mm-hmm. So just so I understand this better. So this score that you calculate using this judge LLM, is that something that you do kind of continuously monitor the LLM while it is in production, or is that something on the development side and then you now say like, okay, now the model is kind of good to roll out?
So at the moment, this is something that we do on every change that we do in our development cycle. So basically, only on changes in our software code, or obviously the model version that we are using is configuration. So configuration changes would trigger that as well. We have not yet automated feedback on a scoring level for the current setup. So basically what you are saying, keep testing like the quality of the application in running mode. What we have there is user feedback. So basically pretty similar to what I think what ChatGPT and others are using as well. So you can basically respond to answers that the LLM or the application gave you, and if those weren't helpful or harmful, or hallucination was in there or whatever, and then you can basically notify us, give us feedback on that, and we are automatically collecting that from users. And obviously that is something that we keep track of.
Was there like difference because now the application is like internal facing, so the employees of the company are using it, versus like, let's say, a chatbot that is open to the public? Was there any architecture design decisions that went into this process from the beginning? For example, security, because we all have heard about these jailbroth injections, all this kind of stuff, try to break into the database, because we have like very sensitive area where the RAG system is kind of attached to. So I would love to know like what kind of security decisions you guys have to decide, how secure this should be, and what kind of stuff where you say here is where we stop the model, and so also we don't generate a lot of costs, for example.
Yes, so I think this touches a lot of different technical topics. So the one thing is obviously like we don't want the model to be hijacked, or I don't know, produce I don't know, harmful results in any way, or access information that it shouldn't access. And so there are different parts in this subset of topic as well. So one thing is we are trying to connect to different departments. So and each department obviously has like different sets of information that is relevant to the department. And you can easily imagine like there's also like a management area, and maybe some numbers shouldn't be accessible by every employee. So obviously there's like some concept of authorization within in our information, even between like inside the company, between the different departments or different employees. So this is one thing that we try to tackle and are still working on. The other thing is obviously, as I said, being able to hijack the model just in general. And I think this is something that, kind of correlates with hallucination just in general. So what we are, or one way we are trying to avoid hallucination is basically fixing the model and saying, just answer the question based on the information we gave you. So this is, as I said before, a lot of prompt engineering that went into that, which is working surprisingly good for us, I think. So basically, if you can manage to design your prompt in a way that makes it very, very likely, or close to 100% sure that the model is really just referring to the information that was inserted into the prompt via the RAG part, that obviously helps to like vegetate hallucination. And as the user does not have immediate impact on what information is extracted from the database, I think that makes it harder for everyone to find loopholes in there. The other part obviously is like just how the whole application is secured, right? So as you said, there are sensible information in there, and obviously that's relevant for employees inside the company, but it's even more relevant for outside users that might want to access information that is company internal stuff. And so I think there went also a lot of work into that regard. Luckily, the company already has a really good platform team, and they are like providing a lot of guidelines and technical setup that we could use. As an outcome, the whole application is just available for employees, not available from the internet, and they're in between the different services, so between backend and frontend, and between the database, there are additional layers of security that makes it harder for even internal users to access that. So that's, as you said, also a part where a lot of work went into.
All right. Yeah, perfect. So you mentioned the hallucination, which is like a big problem with LLMs. Did you have specific steps that you guys implemented to mitigate for that, or to detect at least that the LLM is hallucinating?
Yeah. So as I said before, there's a lot of part of that is to prompt engineering, and what helped us there, I think, was like as I said, so every word matters. So even little changes to the prompt might have a big impact on the response of the LLM, and also can increase or decrease hallucination. So you should really think about about what you are asking in the model. And what helps there is like giving exact instructions. So how the answer should look like. As I said, also that only the information that was provided via the RAG part is used for the answer. Also providing context is really important. So obviously it makes a lot of difference if you say something like, "You are a school teacher, please answer the following question," or "You are like, I don't know, employee in this department of the following company." In the one case, you probably get something that a 5-year-old could understand, and in the other part, like it probably helps your employee. So that also decreases hallucination. And what we are working on is iterative querying. So basically, that probably that comes rather close to an ongoing measuring of quality of responses. So what we are trying to do is there to take the response of the model and directly giving that to the model again, asking, okay, is this a good answer to the question the user was having, and only if it's judged as a good answer or not harmful answer or whatever, then the response is actually given to the user. And in the other case, so something came up that wasn't okay, then the whole process is started again, basically.
Mm. That's so funny that something like this could actually work. Imagine asking a human who just gave you an answer like, does this sound reasonable? And then the human say like, yes. and it actually worked in the context of LLMs, but it's like, if I hear about this, don't know the actual context, it just sounds funny to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, very, very impressive.
Kind of glad that it is the way, because like, I mean, there are people out there like, all the AI will take over and I don't know what, but as long as those simple things still work, I think there's still a good gap to the human mind. Happy about that, I guess.
If we go back into the data, because at the moment what I see is one of also the main challenges of RAG systems is collecting really high quality data of the company, which is like we have a term in data science like garbage in, garbage out. I'm sure you've heard this term once before. What kind of thoughts went into finding these files that the company actually thought that this is the database that you should be looking at? Was there like a team of domain professionals that kind of were very highly involved in this process, or can you maybe tell us more about it?
Yes. So basically, you already gave the answer. So that's the situation that we come up with. Luckily, so we are working rather closely together with the departments that we are giving access to the Copilot, and obviously we don't have any. So we, that is the development team. We don't have any close information about the domain business part, right? So we come across some of the topics and learn a bit from that, but we don't have like 10 years experience in it, and there's no way to achieve that in a reasonable amount of time. So we are required for others to help us there and provide the information that we want to ingest into the vector database. And we are obviously also reliant on them on like judging the responses of the model, because as I said, we have the sample answers, and obviously we couldn't come up with them on our own, but we need some business expert that are actually able to answer the questions that users might have and create answers that can be compared to the answer of the model. I think like the hard part about that is not like finding business users to work with, but for them it's obviously also a lot of time they have to invest to find the right documents. So I heard about other projects and they were just trying to, I don't know, throw the whole Confluence documentation into like the vector database and trying that part. But I think, so at least from my side, I haven't found a company yet. And as a consultant, I come around probably a little bit more than most users that has a very high quality Confluence setup. So as you said, there's a lot of shit in there, and there will be a lot of shit out there as a consequence if you try to do that. So I think this is like something that you have to be aware of if you try to like develop such a application for your company, that you will have to invest quite a bit of time and resources into like getting the knowledge base to a good quality. So you have to like find the relevant documentation. You have to like design an ingestion process for that. I think this is in this small step the easiest part, and then probably even harder is to keep the information up to date, right? So obviously knowledge changes, processes change, tools will change, data will change, and you have to keep track of that and keep the information up to date, because otherwise the quality of answers will decrease, not because the language model decreases in some kind of capacity or your application got worse, but just because of the information base that you are having in there. So this is also something that we are still working on, and I think that will be something that will keep us busy for like as long as we are working on this application on how to do that. And what we are having in mind there are like quality gates just in general. So basically asking users every once in a while, is this data still relevant? So you have to ask the business users there again. And what we are also doing, I think I mentioned that before, is like collecting feedback. And like obviously if the response to an answer to a question that the user had, like that is always connected to a set of information that is in the database, right? And if a certain piece of information is used rather often for different responses, and those responses tend to get bad reviews, bad feedback, then it's getting more and more likely that the piece of information is maybe just outdated or wrong in general. So that's probably a good information then for us to I don't know, deactivate that document and maybe give it to a reviewer and ask them, okay, can you please check, is it still relevant, or is it just coincidence, or was it really something wrong with the document?
When we're talking about documents, are we talking about like actual PDF files, or is it like some sort of a database or something like that?
So this is something that I think keeps changing a little bit. Maybe it's to imagine it easier. Like the easiest part is to ingest PDF documents, for example. Obviously, you could also just insert images and ask a language model again to summarize the content of an image, right? So this comes down to text then again, but let's stick to PDFs. So one interesting part is on how to structure the information that is inside a file, inside a PDF file, because like obviously there are one pages for a lot of things, and there are manuals that cover 1,000 pages, and you probably wouldn't want to ingest all those 1,000 pages into a request to the LLM, not just because it will get imprecise, but also it will incur a lot of cost. Obviously, if you do that just often enough, so you have to chunk the document or all the documents to ingest them into the vector database. And this is basically the idea here, is to basically take each document that we want to ingest there, chunk that into smaller pieces, ingest them in there as well. And the hard part then maybe is to find the connected information, because if you just take chunking by page, for example, then maybe the previous page has some information as well that is relevant for a human and also for the language model to understand the context. So you kind of have to make sure that you are inserting a set of connected information or connected chunks into the request to the language model, so that the answer actually has some meaning and some context.
Yeah, and definitely, chunking is definitely a recent also problem that people have been facing. One possible solution people have been mentioning to use graph RAGs. So you also use the graph structure underneath, and not just to chunk the code. And then this could be a possible solution. People have been experimenting with that. Maybe also a question regarding this product in general. How would you then measure the success? I mean, you're gathering feedback. Is for you success means that people are actually using your tool rather than searching for the actual files themselves, or do you define this before you guys started?
So I think for us it's like similar to a startup that is trying to find a user base out there, so not company internal, but just public. Because I think for us, the most relevant part for now is growing users that are actually using our application for multiple reasons. So the one thing obviously is the more users that are actually using our product, the more feedback we gain, right? So that improves our product directly. So it's not, so obviously there's some technical challenges in scaling out and having more users, but company internal, I think the biggest companies will rarely have enough users to set up a really challenging technical part. So obviously there aren't really many or any companies that have millions of employees that are using the system. So this is not the hard part there, but just having more users helps us here, and is not a challenge for us, but an improvement actually to the resources that we have. And obviously, the more the users that we have, it also increases the acceptance, right? So inside the company. So I mean, I think especially company internal, there might be people that are happy with the developments of using AI or different tools, or are frightened that they, I don't know, that the company can get rid of their jobs or whatever. And I think if you can show as a developer or a data scientist or whatever that there are chances in those technologies, and they are actually helping you in your everyday work, that is a good thing, right? So if you can engage a lot of users, that probably hopefully helps to increase acceptance in there. And in this regard, I obviously can also speak for myself. So we talked about GitHub Copilot at the start of the podcast, right? So this basically targets me as a developer directly, right? So there are talks about, like, is the AI getting rid of developer jobs, and can we just use AI to develop applications? And I don't see that really happening. But what is happening is that there are tools that are helping us. So letting GitHub Copilot create your unit tests, for example, works rather good for me. And is usually a task that developers, like, ideally they see the relevance of that, but I think there aren't too many that are really, really happy to develop unit tests, even especially for old applications, right? So ideally you would come up with a test-driven approach and have your unit tests first, and that makes things easier, I think. But if you have like old application and you want to increase test coverage on that, that's usually a task that isn't really interesting. And I think there are similar tasks for like every department, for every role that you could have in a company. And if you have a tool that helps you to get rid of those repeating tasks, that's just a good thing in general. So to come back to your question, this is like the main focus for us, to increase our user base, I think, while keeping a good quality. So obviously that has an impact on each other. So if the quality decreases, like, probably the user base will not increase or decrease even. So we want to keep track of our quality, and we are at the moment rather happy with that. And while keeping a good quality, engage new users, engage new departments, make them connect to us, make them use us, and it's the target that we have, and the thing we measure at the moment.
Is cost playing an important role at the moment? I know that things can get also costly when integrating these systems.
So not specifically. So I mean, the whole system that we have set up at the moment, the most part of the cost is still infrastructure, right? So having all the services up and like the database and all that stuff. And that's a certain amount, but it's not like terribly high, so that you would have to worry about that too much compared to the potential savings and time that you can have in your employees, right? So I don't know if we take the 1,000 pages document, for example, some manual for any tool that you are using, for example, and you want to find any information in there, and it takes you half an hour to find that information, or it takes you, I don't know, 10, 20 seconds to get a response from your Copilot application. And there's a lot of time saved in there, and that's obviously cost that otherwise would occur in time wasted by your employees. So I think the infrastructure cost is way lower than the time that we can save by doing that. At the same time, like, I think what will come up at some point is a cost of actually prompting the language model, because language models are usually built by tokens. So more characters that you put in there, the higher the cost that a request actually creates. And we talked about iterative querying, where you can basically ask the same question again. And we already talked about having a model that you ask for the intent, and you have, even if you don't have the whole 1,000 pages that you insert into the query, but there will always be a couple of pages probably that you need to generate a good answer. If you combine all that, then you generate rather big prompts, and you tend to repeat them maybe, or ask similar prompts to gain different results, right? So and if you scale that up, then you will come to a point where each prompt has a still low but relevant amount of money that it costs. And if you have a lot of users and they really start to use the application, then I think the cost there will increase and surpass infrastructure cost and all this stuff. So there's something that we keep track of, that we monitor. And yeah, it's not a problem for us yet. And maybe it will never get a problem, because like the same time savings for like, so I mean, the risk we are talking about here is like there are a lot of people using your application, so that's actually a good part, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we want.
What you want. So, and ideally, those MPUs are not using that for fun questions and tell me, I don't know, engineering joke or whatever.
Yeah.
That would work as well, but it's probably not the target. But if they're using it to increase their productivity, or they are having more fun in their work because they can spend more time on doing the relevant parts, then I think the cost is not the problem. And yeah, as I said, if they are using for fun part, then that might be a problem at some point. So
yeah, I think that's a great way to build actually AI into an organization, that come up with something that really valuable, helping people, improving performance. And then the cost is not a factor anymore, because you can prove that this is saving you so much time. I love what you're doing. The project sounds super interesting, and it's really nice to see things that are actually in production that people are using, rather than just hearing some tutorials or seeing some stuff. And thank you so much for sharing the story with us. Yeah, and sure. I hope people would learn some of the things that we talked about today. And I wish you all the luck, and would love to hear more updates in the future about it.
Yeah, sure. We'll come back to that. And thanks for having me.